This is the first time that the European Union has a stand-alone stand at the Zimbabwe International Trade Fair. What does this mean for Zimbabwe's re-engagement drive? What does the European Union have to offer Zimbabwe? Earlier on, we spoke to ZTN Prime's Head of Business, Andy Hodges, to give us his thoughts after conversations with the Team EU at the fair.
There's over 21 foreign firms exhibiting at the Zimbabwe International Trade Fair. We're actually standing here in the UK and Ireland pavilion, and behind me you can see the European Union pavilion. We've had a chat to some of the companies that are exhibiting here, and there's no doubt that they're impressed with what they see. They also can see the business opportunities in Zimbabwe for them. And in fact, when we talk to the trade office at the British Council, they're telling us that more and more British companies are willing to come to Zimbabwe to do business. In fact, the saying that says Zimbabwe is open for business in terms of UK and EU companies is definitely true. And what we expect to see is more and more British and EU companies coming to the country. I've also talked to companies from Belarus. We've talked to companies from all over Africa, all the foreign exhibitors, and every one of them is impressed at the standard of products that is available in Zimbabwe. They see Zimbabwe as a new market to invest in, and definitely it's a market for them to do business in.
To better understand the trade situation between Zimbabwe and European Union, Mugove Chigada gives us the following report.
This is Mashonaland West, one of Zimbabwe's 10 provinces. Farmers are mainly guided by 4 factors on what they produce. There is market demand, climatic conditions, capital availability, and contractors. This farm here in Banket has been contracted to plant paprika for export by Shumba Tafari.
We plan to be producing not less than 20,000 tons of chili for the synthetic market.
Market accessibility is complex. In this case, Rwanda and India have come into play, and they are still unable to penetrate other markets. This is against the background that about 42% of Zimbabwe's horticultural produce is taken up by the European Union. But the bloc believes the existing trade agreement is underutilized. So what exactly is the challenge?
I must say there's a negative perception about Zimbabwe. And I think it is important to work on it. Because at the end of the day, the Zimbabwean government and us working together, we can facilitate and promote investment, and we can promote trade. But we are not taking the decisions. You are taking the decisions. You are the private sector.
The ambassador spoke about trade volumes between Zimbabwe and the European Union, saying the levels can still improve.
And while we have a trade deficit, it's actually a good exchange. And that is possible because we have a free trade agreement, what we call the Economic Partnership Agreement, which allows any Zimbabwean company to export to the European market without taxes and duties.
Zimbabwe's push has been for the country to achieve a trade surplus with all trading partners across the board. The EU acknowledges the trade deficit but highlights positive tax regulations working to Zimbabwe's advantage.
Now we have an annual trade volume with Zimbabwe of around 700 million US dollar. It's quite a lot actually. We are the #1 export destination for horticulture products. 42% of all horticulture products in Zimbabwe go to the European market. And obviously you know them: citrus, vegetables, blueberries, oranges, manchu peas, sugar snap peas, etc.
The European Union is the biggest trading bloc in the world, which trades with more than 80 countries and has a GDP of 17 trillion euros. ZTF organizers are hoping this is another step to bring Zimbabwe to the face of not only the EU, but the rest of the world.
Because sometimes the obvious is concealed. Suppliers and potential customers or clients are brought together under this banner. And this covers both B2B, business to business, B2C, business to customers or end customers. And colleagues will acknowledge and realize that the hardest part in any business is getting known.
It's an opportunity available and barriers exposed. But what is very clear is that efforts made by the country on re-engagement has moved mountains. The journey continues. For ZTN Prime, I'm Govech Gada